Who do you think that we could trade on this team? Because we should be sellers at this point. I think we can all agree we should be sellers. You should not be buying right now. Who do you think that we can trade?
Well, we say this every year, and I just feel like the Giants never do it. But I mean, the only guy that I can recall really is Leonard Williams that we sold and got anything pretty significant for. We ended up getting
Kadarius Toney.
Oh, Toney, of course. That was kind of before the trade deadline, but yes, you're right. I'm thinking more.
And we ended up with Darren Waller, two terrible singers. It was great.
Great goal. How can I forget about Kadarius Toney? But yeah, with this team, I mean, I think you have to look at guys that you clearly don't think are going to be here long term, that may have some value, because you're not going to be able to trade a nonsense player for nothing. Right. So the two guys that a lot of people said that come to mind are Darius Slayton, who I'm not in love with trading unless I'm getting at least like a 4th round pick, because I don't mind bringing Darius Slayton back next year if our receivers aren't that good. If we're being honest, like Neighbors is great. Wan'Dale I like, but he's not a guy you could put on the outside. And obviously they don't have a lot of trust in Jalen Hyatt. So I'm not just like giving away Slayton for nothing. I think he's a solid receiver. He played well again this week. And then, of course, Ojulari. I think he's the most obvious one, right? Because of the position he plays, one of the more important positions in the sport. But I go back to that too. I'm not giving him away for peanuts. I look at it like this: if I'm Joe Schoen, if I trade away Ojulari for a 5th round pick, a 4th round pick, I'm going to get that in compensation if I let him go the next year, if I don't offset it by bringing in a high price free agent, because Ojulari is going to get paid. Edge rushers get paid when they hit free agency. He's young, he's talented. When he's on the field, he produces. So I'm willing to trade those players, but I'm not trading them away for, day 3 picks. I'm getting something decent if I'm trading them, and you're probably not getting that, at least for Slayton. But outside of those 2 players, I mean, you look around this roster, obviously you're not trading the cornerstone pieces with like a Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas. Thomas, of course, is hurt anyway. Neighbors, you're not trading those guys. Wan'Dale, not trading that guy. Daniel Jones, you couldn't trade that guy if you begged the team to take him. So I feel like those are like the 2 prominent names that come to mind that teams may be interested in, but it's got to be for the right price. I'm not just trading them to trade them.
Yeah. Adriana, what do you think?
I feel the same way. I mean, I think that Slayton is probably not going to be here next year. So if you can get something for him, that's great. I actually would keep Azeez. I think there is a concern that, like Chris said, once he hits free agency, he could make a good amount of money. Yeah. But I do feel like, with Kayvon gone, if we didn't have Azeez, forget it. I mean, we would be in rough shape there. So I think that he is a good piece to this team. And when Kayvon comes back, I would still include him in the rotation. I don't know. And maybe there are good edge rushers that are going to be coming out in the draft that we think we could replace him with. That would be my only caveat. Like, if there is someone that we can replace on a rookie deal, then by all means go for it. I just am not sure if that is going to be an option. I would think it probably is. The other thing I wanted to say, because when we were talking about the tackles thing before, don't worry, guys, because the Giants just signed 2 tackles onto their practice squad.
Great.
So now Evan Neal's 8th string at the tackle position.
Yes. So Evan Neal now is never going to get a rep at left tackle. He's probably never going to play in a game. And instead, they have signed Marcellus Johnson, who I think used to be a tackle. He's been on the team and never played. And if he has played, he hasn't been very good. And Garrett Greenfield, who, I don't know, I've never heard of him, but I don't, it's just beyond frustrating.
Maybe I heard that McDonald's is hiring burger flippers. Maybe you can go check that out. I don't know. Is it possible? I agree. I think Azeez Ojulari is probably the most tradable piece. You're probably going to get the most for him. Is it possible that Kayvon Thibodeaux would be traded?
Well, he's hurt.
That I was going to say, if he wasn't on IR, I had said prior to his injury, I could see him as a trade candidate. But I don't know if someone's willing to take that risk with him being injured.
Right. I don't know. Like not even so much of the trade deadline, like next year's sake. Like, to your point, Audrey, if they decided we're going to hang on to Azeez Ojulari and we're going to roll with him instead of Kayvon Thibodeaux, is it possible that they do that, or they just keep it? Because obviously you want depth with edge rushers. They're a very important position. And if Azeez Ojulari ever could stay healthy and you could rotate those, I mean, you see what he can do. I mean, he's ultra talented. He's always been ultra talented. His problem is getting on the field. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I would love Ojulari back. I just don't think it's going to happen because you look at the Jets last year with Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is similar to Ojulari in the sense that he was a really productive situational edge rusher. He hit free agency. The Eagles gave him like $18 million. Like, how much money are you going to invest in the edge rusher position, knowing that you're probably going to have to pay Kayvon? I think they're going to attack the draft at that position. I think they'll do it relatively early. I think they'll sign an edge. But if Ojulari keeps playing well, that's why I think he's going to leave. But I look at it like I'm probably going to get more in compensation for him if I let him go than if I just trade him for a 5th or 6th round pick. So I'm not just trading him. And of course, I'd love him back, but it's got to be for the right price. And also, as far as Thibodeau goes, I don't want to trade him yet. I know, like, he hasn't been consistent enough. He's hurt. But I do feel like, especially in his rookie year, he showed glimpses of being an elite edge rusher at times. And even this year before the injury, maybe he doesn't have the sack numbers, but I felt like he was getting consistent pressure there for 2 or 3 weeks straight. And I felt like after he came out, you started to see it impact the defensive line a bit too. So I still think Kayvon could be I'm not going to say he could be an elite player or a superstar, but I think he could be a really good edge rusher. And I don't want to give up on him.